Hello, everyone, and welcome to another very special episode of the Idea to Value podcast. I'm thrilled to have back with me today Ben Hunt-Davis. He is a former Olympic gold medalist, has competed at multiple Olympic Games, and is also the founder at Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? Ben, it's wonderful having you back again.
Thank you very much for asking me to come back, Nick. It's great to join you again.
Welcome to the Idea to Value podcast, where in every episode we highlight the latest insights into creativity and innovation from experts around the world. I'm your host, Nick Skillicorn. I care about the evidence behind what makes ideas happen, and I've already helped thousands of people just like you through my unique insights into recent scientific findings of how creativity works. I also show you how to turbocharge innovation programs so they finally deliver on the value and ideas you've been struggling to execute. Get your free training on how creativity can be improved by registering now at www.ideatovalue.com. Now let's get on with today's episode. Now, some people may not have seen our first interview, but could you just then, for those people, give us a brief background as to where you got started and how you got to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So I was a rower from school and university. I was in the British rowing team for 9 years. I competed at 6 World Championships, 3 Olympic Games. When I stopped rowing, I started working as a performance consultant. And I've been doing that for the last 20 years. And I've written a book called Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? 9 years ago, I started a consultancy called Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? And we work with organizations around the world with normally senior leadership groups, helping with kind of clarity of direction and getting teams aligned behind that. We spend a lot of time looking at kind of performance mindset and teams. And we work across kind of multiple sectors, kind of essentially where there are business owners or leaders who have got the bit between their teeth. They know things can be better and they want a hand doing it.
Now, we've heard this phrase, will it make the boat go faster, a couple of times now. What's behind that? What does it mean?
So while I was rowing, the first 7 years I was in the rowing team, we did kind of consistently badly, coming last in finals or not making finals, with kind of 6 boats in a final. And that wasn't through a lack of motivation. It wasn't through a lack of hard work. It wasn't through a lack of dedication. We worked our asses off. But essentially, we did what was in front of us. We did what was on the program. We didn't question much. We just got our heads down and we trained hard. And we hoped that training hard would be enough. And the last couple of years, we finally figured out, actually, if we were to win, we had to be better than that. We had to actually make sure that we were making better decisions through the course of the day. We had to make sure that every single conversation and discussion was actually making the boat go faster. We had to make sure that every single decision, every action, every behavior, everything we did was about boat speed. So it was about making the boat go faster. And we became pretty ruthless about how we spent our time and energy, how we supported each other, how we helped each other improve so that we could make the boat go faster. And you can change the question to whatever you want it to be. Essentially, what we're doing, is it adding value? And if it's not, then we probably shouldn't be doing it. Rather than kind of going on autopilot and habit and doing what we've done before, doing what other people are doing. And frankly, that's just, it's not good enough. We've got to challenge more.
And it's not just about the physical boat that you're sitting in this case. A lot of people, when they think of elite performers, it's about maybe the angle at which the oar hits the water or making sure you're all hitting the water at the same time. But what other ways are there? If you've been training for years and that's not brought you success, how else can you make the boat go faster?
Well, so you make the boat go faster through applying your power more effectively, either having more power or applying it more effectively. And in order to do that, when you've got nine people in the boat, you need to be able to communicate with each other really well. You need to be able to, every morning you wake up and go down to the training session. The Aussies and Kiwis are finished. The Chinese are most of the way through. The Russians are, a couple of hours ahead. The Germans are partway through the first training session. The US and the Canadians haven't started yet. But when they do, everybody is working hard. And just thinking that outworking people is going to be enough is in most cases a fallacy. Everybody, in whatever you do, You have competition who are working hard. So in order for us to be better than people, we actually had to make better decisions. We had to communicate more effectively. We had to make sure we were better aligned with what we were doing. We had to make sure that ego wasn't taking any part in decisions. It was actually about boat speed. In order to apply our power more effectively than other people, and actually we had less power than anyone else, so we really did need to apply it more effectively. We had to make sure that we communicated and worked more effectively than everybody else. We had to make sure that we talked about bounce back ability. When stuff went wrong, we had to be able to deal with it more effectively than anyone else. We had to be able to get more from each other. We had to learn faster. So we needed the attitude, the approach, that would enable us to do that. So yeah, I mean, it comes down to power and technique. But in order to do that, if it was easy to get, then everyone would do it.
And this mindset, we worked together with the British Olympians during the London 2012 Olympics. And by that point, this mentality of everything you do apart from just train hard had really infiltrated across a lot of the other sports. One of my favorite examples I still remember is that Olympians were given their own pillows, so that there was never this fear that their sleep schedules would affect their performance, because they knew how they were going to feel, and that helped this consistency to reduce the errors that might occur.
Yeah, I mean, so at the moment, over the last 15 months, with most people working from home most of the time, the stress and pressure on people has very often been higher. People are working pretty hard at the moment, and people are tired. People are knackered. And when you're tired, your decision making is not as good. So, if the margin between winning and losing is, point something of a %, then you want to do everything you can to make sure you're on the right side of that margin. If you work for 4 years and you're 0.1% too slow, then you lose. So how do you make sure you make better decisions? Everything you do is more effective each day. Well, one thing is to make sure you're recovering properly. So sleep. If you're going to risk not sleeping as well, and it might seem marginal, but everything's marginal. There are so many different things you can look at and challenge around. And if you're not doing it, then somebody else sure as hell will be. So it's looking at, people talk about marginal gain. It's the performance mindset. It's about going, how do we keep learning and improving and coming up with different approaches, different ways of doing things, different ways of maximizing what we've got that other people aren't doing, so that we can be more effective than them.
Let's go into this topic of recovery a little bit deeper, because it's not just sleep. I think a lot of people over the last 15 months with COVID, they have lacked sleep. I've been one of them. But keeping yourself at top performance is not just about training as hard as you can and then going to bed and sleeping. What are the ways of thinking about recovery and keeping performance optimal for longer at a higher level? What sort of advice can you give there?
So Nick, in schools, how long are most lessons?
I think mine are either half an hour or an hour.
So an hour double lesson. Most single lessons in schools around the world are between 30 and 40 minutes. And the view is that's how long people can concentrate for. Now, we sit down and we work for 5 hours without moving away from our screen. And we think that we're functioning as well at the end of those 5 hours as we were at the beginning. And the fact is, we're not. In sport, it's very, I can sit on a rowing. I'm not going to sit on a rowing machine anymore. When I was competing, from the first session to the last session of the day, you can measure your power output in watts. It's very clear. And over the course of the day, it goes down as you get more tired. If we could measure our mental power output, it diminishes pretty rapidly through the day. So things like taking breaks, taking regular breaks, actually standing up and moving, getting your blood circulating. Things like eating better. We all know about sugary foods. We all know that you get a spike and then a dip, crash. We all know about eating healthy. We all know about staying hydrated. Yet we still think that, well, another cup of coffee will be fine. It won't impair me. It'll give me a boost. Actually, the facts are very, very clear. And if you bump into anyone and ask them, how much sleep they should get, how much rest they should get, how much, how they should eat, how they should drink, well, we know the answers. But the difference is, there's a massive gap between knowing and doing. And so after London 2012, in London 2012, Team GB came third in the medal table. And what happens after in the run up to a home Olympics, most teams get better and better and better as you get people staying on for longer to compete. So you've got more experience in the team, more funding goes in, all sorts of different things. So teams normally peak at the home Olympics, and then the next games, a country gets fewer medals. So 2012, we came third in the medal table with 29 gold medals. I can't remember exactly how many medals in total. And UK Sport and Team GB got together and went, right, how do we do better at the next Olympics? How do we get more medals? And they looked at all sorts of different things. And one of the key things they looked at was recovery. If not just athletes, but support staff, if people could recover more effectively through the day, not just in racing, but through the day, then they could make better decisions. Their thinking quality would be higher. So ensuring everybody was sleeping properly, people were eating better, people were better hydrated, people were taking breaks between sessions. And if you're doing them on a rowing machine, clearly you've got to take breaks. But again, if you're sat in front of your computer and you're not taking breaks, your mental horsepower just decreases quite quickly. It's stuff we know about, we just don't do because we can't measure it clearly enough. The recovery stuff is essentially really, really simple things. But we choose not to do it because we're too busy. And then we
think
probably
that word busy is so powerful in our society because people often need to portray themselves as being busy in order to show that they're adding value.
Yeah, absolutely. And busyness is, in so many organizations, busyness is rewarded. Whereas actually clear thinking is the most important thing. Generally we hire people for their energy, their enthusiasm, and their skill and their mental horsepower. And what you want to do is you need as much mental horsepower through the course of the day. And we've all had situations where in the evening you're kind of working late and you're finishing off an email or a presentation or something and you go, my God, this has taken me an hour. It should be a 5-minute job. We've kind of lost all our mental horsepower because we're tired. But very often we don't see it like that. We just have stuff to do, so we keep going rather than actually taking breaks so that you can then do the next chunk of work more effectively and over the course of the day save more time. So it's not a knowledge gap for most people when it comes to recovery. It's a behavior gap. It's kind of pure and simple. Most people know what they should do, they just don't do it.
So how do we address that behavior gap, especially from what leadership is pushed to their own people?
So that's a very good question. So I think that actually, from a leadership angle, actually, if you're seen to be taking regular breaks as a leader, if you're actually leading by example and you are, regularly seen to, if you're in an office environment, actually getting up and stretching and walking around, if you are, that sets a precedent. If you book meetings in, you refuse to do hour-long meetings and you only do 50-minute meetings so that you can have a break between meetings, so you can actually think, so you can prepare, so you can stretch your legs. That if a leader is seen to do it, other people are more likely to do it. If a leader is back to back all day and sending emails at midnight, having sent the first one at 7 a.m., then that sets an expectation of what other people should do. So I think the leading by example bit is really, really important. And I think looking for different ways to actually make an emotional connection between busyness, and kind of impact. So we know the facts, but facts, we generally don't make decisions on facts. We make decisions on emotion. So, when you see something that actually isn't as good as it should be, and you ask people questions around, when they did it, what state they were in, and try and make it personal rather than facts we can read about. Try and make it personal so people can make a personal connection between how busy they are and their mental horsepower. So education and knowledge is one thing, but there's got to be a personal connection to it, in my opinion.
So we've talked about doing the right things, doing things in the right way. I think the flip question is then, how do we identify the right things to do? You said you work with organizations to get clarity and direction around how to make the boat go faster. What sort of ways have you found to help companies think about that in a different way?
So kind of two parts to that, Nick, really. There's one part about helping organizations with clarity of direction, and then through an organization, getting people to actually understand the part that they play and what's in it for them to buy into it. In so many organizations, whether it be an organization of 1,000 or 100 or teens, ask employee number 17 what's most important, and they will probably give you an answer that is not the one that you want. So I think a lot can be done about really helping people understand what the direction is and then the part that they play. So I think that's one really important part in terms of the bigger picture. And then there's a bit about the kind of performance mindset. So in the last 15 months, the environment has changed pretty dramatically. And very often when there's a change, we adapt pretty well. When there's a big change, we adapt pretty well and we learn pretty quickly. But then as time goes on, very often we kind of get into habits and routines and we don't continue to adapt. And effectively, if we're not learning and adapting as fast as the environment around us, then we're staying the same or going backwards. We have got to be able to be learning and adapting faster than the environment around us. April last year, I got pretty good at Zoom, and then my skills probably didn't change for the next 6 months until I thought, oh my God, I think probably other people have overtaken. And I then, rather than actually just getting a bit better at it the whole time. And I think the performance improvement bit is, so within any team or organization, from one year to the next year, you'll make a whole load of decisions, but is your decision capability, your decision skill level improving, or are you doing it in exactly the same way you used to? Your ability to communicate, you start a business, you have got a team, you're working on the product or whatever it is, but are you also working on your ability to communicate with people more effectively? Because if not, there'll be better people out there at it, better at getting across your vision, your product, your whatever. So rather than just putting in the days, the kind of performance mindset bit of going, how do I do this better today? And we really encourage people to get curious about the recipe, work out what are the key ingredients that go into senior team making a decision. Really, how do you go about doing that? And then you can't improve everything at the same time, but which bit are you going to work on this month? Which bit are you going to work on next month? So really actually get granular about how you do some of the day-to-day stuff that you just do without thinking about. And unless you're improving those bits, as the environment changes, if we're not changing fast enough, we get left behind. And there are constantly different ways of communicating and working with teams, different ideas that are coming out. And if we're not improving our skill set, then I say we get left behind. So I think there's a clarity, there's the big picture bit, and then there's the everyday. This month, am I going to improve my skill set in whatever area of what I'm doing, or am I just going to work really hard?
An important mindset for an innovator as well, being able to not only look at what you're doing, but adjusting to the market, what the competitors are doing, what else is available. Sometimes it can get a bit overwhelming seeing all the potential changes that are going on in the market. So time to focus on this, or you see some competitors that have changed their business model there. Do you have any sort of advice on focusing on improving what you already have and bringing that up to the strongest level it can be, and sort of taking in what's happening out there in the market, but not really knowing which bit's going to be valuable for you and which bits aren't?
So I think there is a value to kind of looking around you and seeing what's out there and seeing what ideas you can take and nick and all the rest of it. But then you need to work out actually what's useful and what's going to work for you. So I think there's a value to looking around. And I think when you're reviewing performance, very often people talk about, well, this hasn't worked so well and we're not so good at that, and this bit's not quite right. And actually, I think the first bit of any performance review should be what's working really well. What are we good at? What have we done well? Where are we being really successful? And then you can go on to what's not so good. Because most of our boat speed is going to come from the stuff we're really good at. I'm going to be successful. If I want to be, do the next thing, it's going to come from the stuff I'm pretty good at. If I'm working on the stuff that I'm hopeless at, it's frankly a waste of time. I'm better off getting somebody else to do that stuff. So yes, there are leadership skills, decision-making skills, communication skills that I need to improve on. But actually, I should spend more of my time focusing on the stuff I'm really good at and going, how do I improve that even more? And so looking around at the world outside, going, well, that idea will fit with me. I think I can kind of do something with that. Again, that's just not me. So there's no point in trying to do stuff that isn't going to fit in with your skill set or isn't going to mean playing for strength. And when we see stuff that's out there, we need the ability to take some things and look at other things and go, well, good luck to them. Hope that works for them, but it's not for me. And I think playing to our strengths, so many organizations start with a great idea, and then it kind of grows arms and legs, and suddenly you've got 15 different things, and you're going, actually, there are 3 of these things we're really good at. Let's refocus on the bits that actually will drive our business forward, rather than all this other stuff that sounds good, but it's just not our bag. And so many small businesses which start with fantastic ideas just dilute everything as they try and do too many things. So I think having the confidence to go, this is what we're good at, this is what we do, I think is really important, really important.
Is there not a danger, though, that a lot of companies have done the same thing for 50 years, for 100 years in some cases, and that's what ends up meaning they get disrupted when they refuse to change? Is there a way to focus on your strengths but still be open to changing?
Most definitely. So, there are all sorts of kind of famous businesses that have failed because they have believed the hype about how good they are, and actually judging ourselves on how we're performing rather than our results, I think is really important. So if you're constantly going, okay, so really what's working well, and getting more granular, going, really, which bits are we doing really well, which bits aren't we doing so well, what are we going to do next, then you should be able to continue to develop and build, rather than just saying we're getting great results, therefore we're good enough, because invariably the market changes and before long you're not good enough. So just judging yourself on results, I think, leaves you really open to being overtaken by everyone else. Whereas if you're actually going, no, really, how well are we doing this? If this is something we're great at, really, how well are we doing it? Which bits are we absolutely nailing? Which bits aren't so good? And then you've got a chance to continue the improvement curve. Whereas if you're just going, we've got great results, we're really good. I'm working with a FMCG business at the moment, where they've got a number of different kind of product areas. And one is hand sanitizers and kind of cleaning type products. And funnily enough, last year they smashed their numbers by about 500%. Last year, their cold and flu remedy business, I think they did about 30% of their target, because no one in Northern Europe last year had colds or flus. Now, are you telling me that the hand sanitizer bit of the business, their sales team were on fire and doing an amazing job, and the cold and flu remedy salespeople were doing a rubbish job? They might like to believe that, but actually that's just not the case. And so if you just look at the results, whereas the cold and flu remedy people should be going, like, we didn't get the results, but this bit we think we did really well. Looking around us, we think we did this bit of the proposition fantastically. We just haven't got the result yet. And the cold and the hand sanitizer people should be going, actually, this bit wasn't as good as it could be. We weren't as sharp here. We weren't as sharp there. Because if you just judge yourself by results, you might be looking at the wrong stuff. Whereas if you judge yourself on actually how well do you think you've done stuff, you've got a chance of improving and staying ahead of the curve. The very, very first race I won in my rowing career was, I don't know, it was 9 years into my rowing career, and I won my first race, which was kind of poor. But actually we won it. We were celebrating, and our coach asked us how well we rowed, and we just kind of kept celebrating. And eventually we had to admit we rowed really badly. We were just lucky that everyone else rowed even worse. And if we had have thought we got a result, therefore we're good enough, we never would have won anything else. You know, you've got to be able to judge yourself on how well you're performing, because you can always improve your performance. Whereas if you judge yourself by results, you can go, we're good enough, we don't need to change anymore. And then you fail. So I think this performance mindset about learning, about improving, about reviewing should keep you ahead of the curve, or should enable you to learn faster than other people who haven't got the same mindset and approach.
Absolutely. Being self-aware of where you're already performing at a high level and where you have room for improvement. I think all companies, including the ones trying to do, can really benefit from that. Ben, it's been wonderful speaking with you so far. We're coming up to the end of the interview now, and if you don't mind, I'd like to bring it back to a topic which is in the news, which you're probably the best place to talk about out of everyone I've talked with. It's the upcoming Olympics in Tokyo. We're recording this at the beginning of June. The Olympics were meant to happen last year already, and they got shifted due to COVID. They're now meant to happen in a few weeks. There's still some uncertainty. I just want to get your perspective, what it must be like as an athlete. The Olympics are meant to be this thing that comes every 4 years. You can not only train for it, but build up certain training regimens and nutrition and whatever it is to reach real peak performance at a specific day if you want to. How do you think the last 18 months have affected the athletes, and even right now with what's going through their heads just weeks before they're meant to compete now?
I mean, it must have been hard. It must have been really hard. However, there are probably a whole load of people out there going, okay, so a whole load of unknown, don't know what's going to happen. That's going to totally freak out a whole load of people. How do I make sure I'm the person who's ready when they say go? And I haven't been worrying about all the stuff I can't control. You know, the amount of emotional time and energy that people will be caught up reading the latest report, reading about this and that, worrying about this and that, and I can do nothing about it. So how do I make sure I can just sail through going, you know, whatever, if this is the date, I'll train towards that. And if that changes, I'll train towards that. How do I make sure I'm the person who's ready when more ready, because I haven't been affected by all of the unknowns? And that's what a whole load of different athletes will be thinking about. They'll be thinking, this is a great opportunity because it's really going to mess everybody else up. But I'm happy with change. I'm happy with uncertainty. I'm just going to keep learning. I'm going to keep developing. I'm going to keep improving. And whenever they say go, I'll be there and I'll be more ready than anyone else. And maybe I haven't had the perfect run up, but I've had a better run up than everyone else because I haven't been worried about the stuff that I can't do anything about. And that's a really hard mindset to have. But the fact is, that's the case. There's they can't control what's happening. All they can do is control how effectively they train each day. And the people who can just keep focusing on what's most important, they'll be the people who'll go fastest whenever it is they get to race. And if they don't get to race, then that'll be a massive shame. But again, they can't control that, so there's no point in worrying about it.
Ben, it's been wonderful speaking with you. If people want to find out more about you, the work that you do with companies, or where to just find out what you're thinking, what's the best place they can go to find out more?
So you can either come to our website, willitmaketheboatgofaster.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Ben Hunt-Davis. If you look, and we've also got a Will It Make the Boat Go Faster LinkedIn page. So if you put Will It Make the Boat Go Faster into the website, you'll find us pretty easily.
Perfect. I'll make sure to get those links down in the description below. Ben, it's been wonderful speaking with you, and I look forward to speaking again with you soon.
Good to speak to Nick. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening. If you liked it, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave me a comment about what you thought and what you'd like to see more about. If you want to take your creativity and innovation capabilities to the next level, then invest in yourself with the premium training only available at ideatovalue.com. These exclusive training modules have all been put together by me, Nick Skillicorn, and have been used by thousands of artists, innovation leaders, and CEOs to become better at understanding the source of their creativity and executing on their innovation ambitions. And there is no risk to you, as they are backed by our money-back guarantee. Now, don't forget to go out there and make your ideas a reality. See you again soon.